We've got AHT from Bad Mama Jamma. Like I promised earlier on, I will play that now-ish. And I've also got the one from Sal. And I think Sal can finish us off for the day. I'll get to listen to your nice dulcet Canadian tones as I say, as I sort of like wind up emotionally inside myself towards the end of the show. Right. Great day, by the way, today, and it's been so good to have brought some awareness to people about the cultural genocide that happened. It was simple stories like about how you had an orange shirt actually are the seed that grows into a bigger story. You know, the 300 subsequent nights of abuse and torture that those people went through were obviously much more significant than the initial moment of losing your orange shirt. But as these are the things that stay with us, and it's important to recognize other people's stories.
You know, kid, I know how you feel about this fight that's coming up, because I was young once too.
Wait, I've missed this already. Right, sorry, it's quick moving. AHT here, you've drawn in, you've got support and resistance lines, okay, you've got a Fibonacci. You've ditched the golden pocket zone off of that Fibonacci. Is an interesting one. I'm going to assume that you feel like this moves, that these markets, or certainly the markets that you've been looking at, are moving in a more extreme manner, perhaps, than to stop at a golden pocket. Extreme interest being paid to the 786 and the 886 in this movement here. If we were to continue that down, it does follow along with where the Bollinger Bands are pushing out to, giving you the idea that you could, of course, go there. We're past the 618 already on these Fibonacci's to, wait a minute, where's that drawn in from that zero? You drew it in, not sure where that one exists at, just off, you know, just looking. In fact, they're not trend based, are they? Hard to see exactly what they are. They might be trend based fibs. They might be trend based fibs. I'm not 100% sure. Measuring it within this, anyway, it all kind of seems to correspond within the sort of range that you've got there in the background, and you've got notes that pop up. AHT September 29, 21 finished the day at 14.95, finishing just below the 50 on the 1 hour chart.
About this fight that's coming up, because I was young once too.
If falling down to the 786, be looking to come down to the 1398. Right. Which is going to be in around about here. No, about here. It's not that. It's not this Fibonacci that's just off to the right-hand side, by the way. It's this one in the middle that he's talking about.
And I tell you something. Well, if he wasn't here, I probably wouldn't be alive today. The fact that you're here.
In this screen, I took a measure from the last low to the last high and took that and moved it to the 50 retracement to see if we were to bounce off the 50, would we make a full move to at least 1899? So you're taking a measure move from the last low to the last high. You're kind of trying to look at this and say, okay, so this is an unusual way of doing things. But what you're trying to do is discover the range. When you're looking at the range between the last low and the last high, then it's not got a lot of different components to it. But you're at least you're defining the range that you're looking at for reasons, right? So in terms of where it's traded to and the tolerance, and it gives you that elasticity measure of the markets, and that's what it's all about, really. It's more about price elasticity. What is the elastic nature of the price moving between one point and another? And that's what you're doing, measuring that range, where you know that it gets it stretches very easily here. Gets a bit tighter at those wider ranges. The next time you take that elastic band out of the box, it might go a little bit further or a little bit less, but you know the rough range of what the tolerance is of that elasticity of price. And essentially that's what you're doing, although it's not in a way that corresponds with patterns. Now you're using it also in a slightly predictive way to say, well, what if we come to the 50% line, where would that take us? And that's an interesting enough way of doing it that relates back to, where you would see if you were to say, if you were looking at, I mean, harmonics, there's too many moving parts to fit that in there, but it does work along the lines of you're choosing a potential pivot point in the future and saying, well, where would that take us to as a range? And fair enough. It's not necessarily, it isn't the way that I would do things myself, because I would find that I would like to triangulate where I'm taking things from, that extra level, so that I could repeat that across a different chart. But to say that it's wrong wouldn't recognize what it is that you're actually doing, and what you're doing is not just doing something wrong. You're doing something else. But I would say that I would like to have that extra pointer to be able to make it repeatable.
Here and doing as well as you're doing gives me, what do you call it, motivation, huh? To stay alive. Because I think that people die sometimes when they don't want to live no more.
That's very true, by the way. That quote in the background happens all the time. Don't know if you're listening to him. So it's from Rocky, isn't it? It's the wee Jimmy or whatever he is talking. Um, I think sometimes people die sometimes when they don't want to live no more. That's probably explains to an extent some of the tragedy that happened to those 6,000 children at those schools. But most of them were murdered by cruel and heartless people. The Bollinger Bands on has the moving at 9:20, 200. The last time we crossed 200 to the upside was in the late Jan 25. Aye, so Bollinger Bands themselves engulf all of the moving averages. The median line of the Bollinger Band being the 20 basis, the 20 simple moving average is actually above all of them, a shorter period moving average and all of the longer ones. Interesting point that you're making there. Not too sure how much that you're really exploring that concept yourself here. It's very true though that the on average, if we go back to a typical retrace area, which we've seen on average based off of the average recent price action, will actually be above all of the recent moving averages and the longer term moving averages, just to be back at that other one. It's an interesting dynamic, and of course that would be typical as we're seeing a market turn around from after a longer term trend into another trend. That's the sort of dynamic that you see. Very much an edge case scenario that you've pointed out here. I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but that's certainly what's happened.
People think. And nature is smarter than people think. Little by little, we lose our friends, we lose everything.
As you can see in my screenshot, you can tell we crossed the 200 in early Oh, shit. You're cheating here, Bad Mama Jamma, by putting in these words like this. You're cheating. You're cheating, so you are.
You know, what the hell am I living around here for? I got no reason to go.
Damn you. There it is. As you can see in my screenshot, you can tell we crossed the 200 in early Jan, but the 50 never tested the 200. So when the price came to test the 50 before consolidating in between the 50% and the 382 until the 50 MA crosses the 200 on the 26th of January. Yes, that did indeed happen. Curious to me is, did we fill in that gap that was there, that flash that came up? That would have been the next candle after, which is that one. Yes, we did. We filled in that flash. For the curious amongst you, I just looked.
You know, what the hell am I living around here for? I got no reason to go on. But with you, kid, boy, I got a reason to go on. And I'm going to stay alive. And I will watch you make good.
You bastard, you. They are being cheeky, just Bad Mama Jamma. You are being cheeky. You're just right in our face cheeky with this one. As for this, you'll figure it out. You bollocks face, you. You figure that out, lol. All right. Jeez. Positive cross on the DMI over here. Well, we're just coming up into judicious territory on the ADX. You know, it's worth staying somewhat relaxed about things until on Bad Mama Jamma's chart here, at least that orange turns to white. We're just here, judiciously looking forwards and asking about, can we trend up the way? We could indeed see the pullbacks, like you're saying, towards that 786, trending up the way. Here's your 50% jump move. Sorry, no, that's happening elsewhere. You're talking about I'm not sure. I mean, this could turn into an inverted head and shoulders. If that's the shoulder, that's the head, and that's the shoulder. This is too much. You're not supposed to be challenging me with your homework, man. This is totally cheeky. You're going to range between 14. That's not big enough for that movement up the way there. Percentage-wise, logarithmically, though, it could be. You're looking at a movement between 12 and 16. But that's is that 12? Yeah, 12 and 6. No, it's not even a lot. I don't know, man. You cheeky though. Good stuff. Really, what you were doing there is interesting. A couple of little things that obviously we discussed throughout the show as we were doing them, as to whether or not that was the way to do it or not. Man, thanks very much for your contribution.